Hi guys, this is gsn.com and I'm here with a review of a gaming phone, the ASUS ROG Phone 5S. After reviewing the ASUS ROG Phone 5 Pro, it's time for the fall generation of this year's gaming flagship. Now, we don't have the Pro model, we have the regular 5S, but it's still pretty well spec'd, and it's still, after all, a Snapdragon 888 Plus handset with premium materials and lots of power. Last I checked, it was priced at around 1099 euros on Amazon, and it brings some upgrades from the ROG Phone 5 series. It delivers, first of all, an upgrade for the screen. It jumps from 300 Hz touch sampling rate to 360 Hz touch sampling rate. It also offers an improved management of the temperature. It has a large 144 Hz refresh rate screen, the fast 65 watt charging via the bottom port or the middle port, we also have one here, and advanced cooling and console level graphics. Now, as far as the design is concerned, we're obviously dealing with glass and metal. The phone here weighs a hefty 238 grams, and which is basically the same weight as the predecessor ROG Phone 5. I should also mention that it has a 9.9mm thickness, which is actually lower than the 10.3mm of the predecessor. The design is also pretty similar, down to this RGB panel we have here, which is fully customizable. Let's see it activated. Okay, so right now it's lit up in red. You can change its strobe pattern, its color, and what have you. The Pro version actually has a mini screen at the back. This is just an RGB panel. So once again, there is glass at the back, there is glass at the front, and there is metal in between. There should be an aluminum frame here. It's obviously a phone meant more for landscape use rather than portrait when playing those games that we like to play a lot, like PUBG New State, RPGs, and racing games, for example. I would say it's quite nice to handle in landscape, while on portrait it's a rather long and also slippery phone on account of the curved glass back side. And just to make things easier in landscape, it has this extra port here covered with a lid, so you can charge it up by inserting the USB-C cable here. You can hold it like this without being bothered by the cable from here. Okay, so let me put the lid to the side and we're going to continue the review. Of course, the build is premium, but the bezels are actually kind of big considering today's standards. However, there's a justification for that. You have to rest your fingers on these large bezels when gaming. That's the whole reason behind it. And we also have these touch buttons here, which help you with shooting in games in the Nitro and Asphalt, for example. It's well built, and now we're off to the AMOLED panel that we have here. This one is a 6.78-inch AMOLED panel with a 2448 over 1080 pixel resolution, up to 1200 nits of brightness, Gorilla Glass Victus protection, and also we have 144 Hz refresh rate, as I mentioned before, plus HDR10 support. Now, luckily, there is no punch hole or teardrop notch, and also no curvature of the screen. ASUS decided that in order to keep the screen flat and not impede us from gaming. We have 1 billion colors to show. It's a very bright and crisp experience with wide view angles, very deep blacks, and an excellent contrast even in the full sunlight. The whites are pretty pure, and the colors are, I would say, comparable to a top-notch OLED TV set. Once again, pretty immersive, and the pixels have a pentalometric arrangement, and when it comes to the brightness, it's actually a good one, better than some of the gaming phones I've tested recently. So if I go here, you're going to notice in these tests that we achieved 600 lux units for the brightness test, which is actually not half bad. It's superior to the arch nemesis, the Nubia Red Magic 6S Pro, and also the Red Magic 6 Pro, and also it defeats the ROG Phone 3. It stays below this level of brightness, below the ROG Phone 5 Pro and the OnePlus 9 Pro if you want some landmarks here. But as far as gaming phones are concerned, it's doing fine. When it comes to the settings, we obviously have a lot to play with on account of ASUS offering us the usual splendid customization area. So if you go here, you have your brightness, adaptive brightness, night light, and the splendid mode with its color temperature slider, screen color, natural, cinematic, standard, or customized, with its own slider here. And well, that's about it. We also have smart screen on, auto rotate screen, system color theme, which you can apply and extract from the theme, make it light or dark. And aside from that, we have app scaling, font size, animation, speed, system navigation, and so forth. You can also tweak the refresh rate, but only if you deactivate the X mode from here. An interesting choice. You can set it to auto, 144 or 120 Hz or 60 Hz if you really want to save some power. Of course, setting it to 144 Hz wields a very smooth scrolling and all-around experience. As you see me swiping around, it's as if things are happening in fast forward. No, it's actually the high refresh rate. We're done with the screen. Time to talk more about the CPU. Although it says here it's a Qualcomm Snapdragon 888, it's actually the Snapdragon 888 Plus. It's basically a higher clocked version of the Snapdragon 888, and in the current case it provides us with 16 gigs of LPDDR5 RAM, and also we have 512 gigs of UFS 3.1 storage, half a terabyte, not bad, of which we should have accessible around 460 gigs to play with. No microSD, which was to be expected considering what we're getting here. And this time around, compared to the other two ASUS ROG phones we tested over the past years, it doesn't suffer from overheating, and it doesn't need that external cooler to take things down a notch. So even when playing PUBG New State for quite a while, or Genshin Impact, the temperature may increase, but it doesn't exaggerate, so Snapdragon 888 Plus manages heat better than the regular 888. Now, when it comes to the benchmarks, we have them here. We ran the most important ones, actually a lot of benchmarks here. We start off with Antutu 7, where we placed 12th, just above the Galaxy Z Flip 3 and above the Poco F3. And as you can see here, just below the Z Fold 3 and the Oppo Find X3 Pro were among the big flagships this year. In the more relevant Antutu 8, we're third placed after the iPhone 13 Pro and Nubia Red Magic 6S Pro. We actually beat the ASUS ROG Phone 5 Pro by a few thousand points, so not bad overall, and we also beat the Nubia Red Magic 6 Pro. In Antutu 9, which we didn't test that many phones in, we placed on the first spot, beating the other handsets we tested, and in Geekbench 5 we scored 7th in the single core test and 12th in the multi-core, beating the Galaxy S21 and OnePlus 9, but also scoring below the Xperia 1 Mark III and Nubia Red Magic 6 Pro. When it comes to the graphical benchmark, we have 3D Mark Slingshot Extreme ES 3.1, second placed only after the Zenfone 7 Pro and beating all the other flagships and gaming phones launched this year. So it's a potent device, top tier material, and also doesn't sacrifice the temperature too much. So if you go here, you'll see that in benchmarks we reach 40.1 degrees Celsius and in games 41.4. They may seem a bit high, but compared to what ASUS usually delivers on gaming phones, we usually require a fan, a cooler, to keep things in check. This time things are kept in check even without the accessory. So that's improved cooling. And now let's talk about the battery. As usual, ASUS spares no resources and provides a huge battery, 6000 mAh, and I remember the previous two ROG phones being beasts when it came to the battery life. Let's see what this one delivers. Now when it comes to the video playback, we achieved a decent 14 hours and 59 minutes. I mean, it's no record, but for a gaming phone it's quite fine. It surpasses the ROG Phone 5 Pro and the OnePlus 9 Pro, so not bad. In general, the Snapdragon 888 CPU and its relatives have been quite power hungry this year. It's still below the Oppo Find X3 Pro and the Nubia Red Magic 6 Pro, as well as the Red Magic 6S Pro. When it comes to the continuous usage, we have PC Mark as a landmark with a not bad 10 hours and 46 minutes. It's quite okay, superior to the Xiaomi Mi 11 Ultra in its secondary back screen, superior to the Galaxy S21 Plus 5G. However, inferior to the Realme GT 5G, probably the cheapest gaming phone this year, and inferior to the ROG Phone 5 Pro. And the biggest rival, Red Magic 6 Pro, is a bit higher in this same test. When it comes to charging, it delivers pretty much on the promises that ASUS made. It requires 53 minutes to go from 0 to 100%, and after 30 minutes you're already at 82%, which is actually higher than what ASUS promised. Not bad. We have quite a few options and settings in the settings department for adaptive battery, power saving, and battery care, which is nice to see. You even get a rating for the level your battery is at, so you know what you're doing. So we have here system modes, adaptive battery, visual settings with a variety of animations, battery management, low battery power saving, and battery care with the rating I promised you before. All in all, it's pretty good for a gaming phone, but I've seen better this year. And now we're off to the stereo speakers. Just like Sony, ASUS is serving us two slits. We have the top slit here and the bottom slit here, delivering potent stereo acoustics with amplifiers included. Now, we do have some special tweaks which we can apply from the dedicated department, provided we can actually find it. Let's see, audio wizard actually, volume syncing, outdoor mode, complete mute, media, and here we are. It has Dirac technology and also scenarios like dynamic, music, cinema, game, and a 10-panel equalizer, as well as treble and bass booster sliders. And now let's actually turn on the music and let it speak for itself with those two speakers in action. Quite the bass we have here. By the way, we also have an audio jack here in case you missed it. The bass is very potent, you can feel it radiating through the body of the phone. Very well calibrated speakers, not the highest in the world. The first two ROG phones were crazy in that regard. Huge volume, gigantic volume. This one is still pretty loud enough to bother someone in the other room, in the bedroom if you're in the living room for example. The sound remains clear at maximum volume. We have a pretty good treble and nice voices. There are some subtleties and nuances you're going to catch in songs, so that's nice. And also the slight surround, which surrounds you in PUBG, so you can hear the steps of the enemies around you. We also have some decibel meter tests here, so we use the special tool measuring the decibels. You achieve 77 decibels at the bottom, 77.4 decibels at the top with an acoustic sample. It's a bit underwhelming. The actual real-life result is a bit more impressive. I don't consider this to be relevant, but because it's lower than expected. In gaming, we achieve 97.9 decibels. This is more like it, but still far from a record. It goes above Huawei P40 Pro, Red Magic 6 Pro, and iPhone 13 Pro. Stays below the ASUS ROG Phone 3 and the crazy first ROG phone, which was a beast with 107 decibels. Now we go further than that and we cover the cameras. As you can see, ASUS chose not to have a teardrop notch or a punch hole. It integrated the camera in a top lip. The front camera is a 24 megapixel shooter with Full HD capture, sadly. It could have easily been 4K, I don't know why it's not. By the way, it has the same camera setup as the model before, zero differences in my book, from the ROG Phone 5. 64 megapixel main shooter at the back, f1.8 aperture, 13 megapixel ultra wide camera, f2.4 aperture, 5 megapixel macro camera, and that's it. Plus LED flash and 8K video capture. And now let's check out the gallery, even though, to be honest, this feature isn't exactly the main one on a gaming phone. Okay, so pretty much the same camera setup as the ASUS ROG Phone 5 and also pretty much the same results. However, I must say that I'm pretty impressed by the selfie camera. It's got to be probably the best selfie camera on a gaming phone so far. It could even compete with flagships. Now these are the initial samples, we have more here. The bokeh is pretty well done here, separating the subject, which is me in this case, from the background. And now off to the main camera, which delivers in colors, clarity and details, and the pictures are quite nice to look at. We have the contours of objects being very clearly rendered and very well separated focus on the foreground and the background. And to be honest, even the ultra-wide camera delivers a wider picture and also keeps the colors in a nice fashion, doesn't distort them very much. We have some pretty nice reds here and some nice blues. And once again off to the selfies, this time in a different lighting. The expression of the face is very well represented. We didn't add any extra beautification. There's a lot of detail. These are full 24 megapixel shots, and I have to say I'm loving the result, which is also a good thing on account of using this for your streaming needs for gamers. Lovely sky here. Some flagships, even flagships, mess up the sky colors every once in a while. Not this one. A regular shot, ultra wide shot, with colors being kept in check. Now the only problem I noticed is the fact that the focus in close-up may be a bit underwhelming at times, so macros will not be that impressive. And here we are with the statue bust, which we actually turned into a bokeh shot with the main camera, once again achieving great results. some autumn leaves here. I have to say I'm loving the dynamic range you have here and the hues and the way some of the color temperature of the shots is warmer and some cooler, and the camera actually figures out where there was shade and where there was more sun and adapts to the situation properly. So all in all, it feels like it's in between a high mid-range phone and a flagship, and clarity and details are two constant aspects of the camera, and what surprised me the most was the ultra-wide shooter and how well it kept the colors. Close-ups, not that impressive, and even with the sun in front of us, the results were satisfying. But possibly the biggest surprise was definitely the selfie capture. These are daytime shots, so let's go to the low light ones. We have a dedicated folder here for night shots. Now this camera is light hungry, so you'll capture a lot of light during the night. You won't be very tempted to use the special night mode. However, the ultra wide shots are a bit underwhelming. They're dark and they tend to increase the size of the light sources, as you can see happening here. Now the light sources themselves have some problems here and there when it comes to the main camera as well. I feel they're a bit amplified by this camera. They're a bit too intense for their own good, that's my opinion, but the clarity was there and the brightness of the scenery is fine for night capture, but it's not above a typical mid-range phone. It doesn't go into flagship territory. It's just fine for mid-range. Now we go further, and if you want to see videos, we're going to use this player. We have 11 daytime videos. Let me start off with a stabilization test, provided that I can find it. Here we go. We descended a flight of stairs. Even though it may look nice here, the stabilization isn't actually very good. There's a bit of flicker in the image. However, that only happens when you're on the stairs. When you're on the flat ground, things are actually quite solid stabilization wise. Okay, this is a panning. If I remember correctly, this should be an 8K video filled to the brim with detail. One thing I notice here is that the video capture is too bright. It's too exposed. It captures too much light, even more than the photos, that's for sure. It's too bad because we have a lot of details and a satisfying quality. This is a selfie video, which is on par with the pleasant surprise of the selfie photos. Decent stabilization, nice focus, and pretty nice color of the skin and the texture of the skin. Finally, some more colors here. This is one of the shakier videos when panning, but I'm loving the clarity here and the colors. Because the sun had already set or was close to setting, we don't have to complain about the exposure anymore. So all in all, if you can tone down the brightness a bit and the exposure, you should be happy with the results, but still more of a high mid-range affair here. Probably fighting phones from the Xiaomi 11T series, for example. We have more shots here. This is a bit underwhelming. This is a focus test on foreground and background, and you have to use a different distance compared to the regular phones we test in order to achieve proper results. The focus is fast-ish. That's how much I can say about it. Now, these were daytime videos. Let's see low light ones. We actually have only one here, and here we go. It's, I would say, a typical mid-range affair. If you're able to pan slowly, you'll see that we have a strange hue. It's a bit of a mustard hue, a greenish yellow. I've seen it before. I mean, for a regular tourist visit in a country where you're panning on architecture, it's fine, but once you start moving, there's a lot of flickering, and in the distance you do see some noise here and there. We remain with the selfie camera as the biggest surprise, and possibly the colors of daytime photos are the second best surprise. And now when it comes to connectivity, obviously the phone is fully spec'd. I'm talking about your usual suspects. We do have 5G connectivity, we have Wi-Fi 6, actually Wi-Fi 6E, Bluetooth 5.2, dual band GPS, NFC, USB-C 3.1 on the side, and the USB-C 2.0 at the bottom. The calls were pretty loud and clear, and we also have here obviously a bunch of speed tests. These are the Wi-Fi 6 ones, 707 megapers in download on Wi-Fi 6, 671 megapers upload, and for 4G, 92.7 over 46.9 mega per second. This is a pretty modest result, but the results depend on the quality of the network in that specific moment. Now, when it comes to the software, there's not much to say here. This is Android 11 with a ROG UI applied on top of it. Now, it's a typical Android experience with some changes for the icons, and as well we have that special console area, which you can find here. That's basically the core of the experience. You have your games library with your scenario profiles. We also have a Stadia bundle 3 months Pro subscription, so that's nice to see. You can go to the scenario profiles here. You can force restriction to the background CPU usage. You can use a memory cleaner. You can do tweaks for the network, for the air triggers, for key mapping. You have your macros here. Each game has its own profile. Now, aside from that, we have the console area, where you can see the CPU and GPU temperature, system temperature, an estimation of the battery life, and the main profiles. X mode, the most powerful and pretty balanced of them, dynamic, ultra durable, and advanced with editable tweaks. Speaking of tweaks, you can actually tweak the lighting system on the back side with its color, strobing, frequency, brightness, and rate. And these are the strobing patterns: flash and dash and mixed lights. Lighting synchronization, fan speed if you have a fan attached, and game Genie, which will come into play as we play a title. The AR was done when we unboxed the device. This is actually the social networking area which ASUS has integrated into this feature. You can join groups, you can chat with people, you can post and meet new folks, you can take part in polls and so much more. This is the feature area with some game recommendations, and this is my very own profile with badges, posts, collection, groups, and topics. Now, aside from that, for security, we have an in-display fingerprint scanner which is quite fast and snappy. We have a lot of settings to play with here for connectivity, storage, battery, display, themes. I have one applied with PUBG New State, advanced features like mobile manager, game Genie, twin apps, safeguard, OptiFlex, gestures, air triggers, one-handed mode, and screen recorder, which is pretty important. Of course, digital white balance is part of the package. And now let's get into a game and show you that extra addition that ASUS is offering here aside from the main console. It's called Game Genie, so let's see what it's all about. Now, Free Fire has been registering a bit of an update. This is actually Free Fire Max. It's getting a DLC themed after Casa de Papel, Money Heist, the famous Netflix Spanish TV show, which has just come to an end. Okay, so as I play along, I'm going to show you some of those features for the Game Genie, which are basically triggered through a side panel. I'm going to choose this mode, start, and if you swipe from the side, you're going to see a lot of things. You can block alerts, calls, lock the brightness, see the FPS, temperature, change the refresh rate, change the air triggers, macros, quick control, record, and more. I've already set up my macros. One is for shooting on this button, and one is for aiming with this one here, hopefully. Okay, so the battle has started, or is close to starting. Here we go. I think I'm going to have to move that button, which will probably end with me being dead. Okay, so this should maybe be in another area. I think we need a different weapon, one to properly focus, so maybe next round we'll get it right. The idea is that I can definitely fire by pressing this button repeatedly, and I even got a kill. First blood, actually. So I'm just pressing a trigger, mind you. I'm not using the virtual button on the screen. Now, Free Fire has been growing quite a lot over the past years. It's become a pretty solid rival for PUBG. Some would say it's better than PUBG, believe it or not. Oh, here we go. Sole Survivor. Ah, come on. So close. So close. Anyway, we just got defeated, and now you're probably going to see what I mentioned before, the fact that I should have mapped my button for targeting. I mapped it here actually. Okay, so let's see what happens now. Air triggers, moving this one here to properly target, and we're done. So that's the purpose of the second trigger button, targeting. You get the gist of it. The gaming experience is top notch. The gaming is very fluid on account of the high refresh rate and the powerful CPU and all the resources you have here. Everything is set to ultra or high, so it's definitely a satisfying experience. And as I keep playing the game, I'm going to take you through the pros and cons, because yes, it's the end of the review. So on the pro side, we have a great screen, very powerful CPU and solid performance, a lot of tweaks coming from the console department, pretty okay battery life as far as gaming phones are concerned, so that's fine. And I should probably also mention a fast charge, fast connectivity as well, satisfying OS, pretty loud and crisp speakers, and I just died again. I should also mention that there's less heat than other ROG phones, an improved camera, especially the selfie camera, and lovely colors for the main camera. What else? Nice triggers and a pleasant gaming experience overall. Those are the pros, and also very solid feeling when you hold the device in landscape and a bright and crisp screen. On the cons, it's a slippery device in portrait mode. The videos we shot with the camera are too bright. The speakers, well, to be honest, I've heard louder speakers on other gaming devices. Also, we don't have a bundle cooler like we did before. There is no IP certification, no micro SD, and it's quite pricey. Also, the zoom and the nighttime photos aren't exactly on par with, I would say, the high mid-range segment. That's pretty much it. If you want gaming, rest assured this is the best one for you. The rivals, while they may seem appealing and may have a higher refresh rate, they don't have the same quality of options and editable, customizable features like ASUS does. Their quality features and the quality console here can be the selling point, and also a surprising selfie camera for those streamers among you. So if you're a streamer, this selfie camera may be very important for the purchase, and the quality of the CPU and screen doesn't leave any trace of a doubt. It's a solid gaming phone. It can fight the Nubias with ease, and it has better software than the Nubias. That's it from us. Hope this helped you. It's a pricey phone, but I think it's worth it. This is it from us. Bye bye.